Somewhere on the Navajo Nation, a grandmother tells her grandchildren to come inside before the sun fully sets. Not because of the cold, not because of coyotes. She tells them because there are things that walk after dark that should never be looked at directly, never be spoken of by name after nightfall, and never, under any circumstances, be invited closer by curiosity. This isn't a scary story told for entertainment. It's a warning, passed down for generations, still taken seriously today. And tonight, you're going to learn why. Before we go any further, it's important to understand something. What you're about to hear isn't folklore in the way a campfire story is folklore. It's a real, living, spiritual belief within Navajo culture, one that many Dene people consider sacred, private, and not something to be discussed casually, especially not by outsiders, and especially not for entertainment. Out of respect for that, tonight isn't going to invent details, describe rituals, or turn this into shock content. Instead, you're going to learn what has been shared publicly, why the fear around this topic runs so deep, and why, even now, this remains one of the most serious and least joked about legends in North America. In Navajo tradition, there's a belief in a type of witch, sometimes translated into English as a skinwalker, though that translation only captures a fraction of the concept. According to belief, this is a person, usually someone with deep knowledge of medicine and ceremony, who has chosen to use that knowledge for harm instead of healing. To gain this power, tradition holds that a person must commit an unthinkable act, often described as harming a close family member, as a way of severing themselves from their humanity and their community. It's described less as gaining a supernatural ability and more as trading away your soul for one. Once that transformation happens, belief holds that the person gains the ability to take the form of an animal, often a coyote, wolf, owl, or crow, and move through the night with terrible speed, strength, and cunning, using that form to harm the people and communities they once belonged to. This is where the deepest fear comes in, and it's also the part outsiders most often get wrong. Within Navajo belief, this isn't treated as some far-off monster in the woods. It's treated as a betrayal from within, something that could, in theory, be someone you've stood next to your entire life. That's part of why the topic is held so closely, and why elders traditionally avoided speaking about it directly, especially after dark, out of the belief that discussing it could draw attention, and attention could invite danger. Reports of encounters, when people are willing to share them at all, tend to follow certain patterns. A figure moving on the edge of headlights that keeps pace with a moving vehicle, no matter how fast it's driven. An animal that looks wrong somehow, too tall, too fast, moving with the wrong kind of intelligence in its eyes. A presence outside a home late at night, scratching or knocking in a rhythm too deliberate to be a natural animal. And in almost every account, the same instruction repeats. Do not make eye contact, do not speak its name, do not engage it directly, because doing so is believed to invite it closer. Outside of Navajo communities, this belief has been sensationalized for decades, turned into horror movies, video games, and viral internet stories, almost always stripped of its original cultural and spiritual context. Many Navajo people have spoken publicly about how uncomfortable and disrespectful this commercialization feels, since for them, this isn't a piece of pop culture folklore. It's closer to how many religions treat concepts of genuine evil, something serious, something private, something you don't reduce to entertainment. That said, there have been public accounts from Navajo individuals willing to share their experiences, usually carefully and without excessive detail. Longtime residents of the reservation have described nighttime encounters with animals that behaved in ways no normal predator would, following cars for miles at impossible speeds, standing upright briefly before dropping back onto all fours, or simply vanishing the instant a porch light was turned toward them. Law enforcement officers working in remote areas of the reservation have occasionally described similar experiences off the record, encounters they don't file official reports about, because there's rarely a way to describe it that sounds like anything other than something out of a story. What makes this different from many other legends is the consistency of the underlying warning, not the description of the creature itself, but the instructions that accompany every account. Never look directly at it. Never say its name aloud. If you see something matching its description, Look away immediately and leave the area without acknowledging it. These aren't rules invented for a movie plot. They reflect a genuine, long-standing cultural practice of protecting yourself by denying the entity attention, the same way many traditions across the world describe evil as something that grows stronger the more it's acknowledged, engaged with, or feared aloud. Researchers who study comparative folklore have pointed out that belief systems involving people who trade their humanity for supernatural power exist across many cultures worldwide, independently developed, thousands of miles apart, with no historical contact between them. Some see that as evidence of a shared human psychological fear, the fear that evil isn't always something external, but something that can emerge from someone trusted, someone familiar, someone who chose power over connection. Others within the communities who hold these beliefs see it more simply, not as psychology, as something real that has always required real caution. If there's one thing that should stay with you after tonight, it's this. This isn't a story asking to be picked apart for thrills. It's a living belief, held seriously by real people today, wrapped in genuine caution passed down across generations for a reason. Whether you view it as inherited fear, cultural memory, or something that reflects a truth science hasn't caught up to yet, is something only you can decide. But if you ever find yourself driving a long stretch of dark road through unfamiliar land, and something appears at the edge of your headlights that moves just a little too fast, just a little too upright, the advice passed down for generations remains the same as it's always been. Don't look, don't speak its name, and drive on without ever looking back, because maybe, just maybe, some warnings have survived this long for a reason.